welcome to another video. In today's video we will learn how to make this really beautiful shawl. It is an easy shawl. There is a written pattern located on my website. There are two versions for the edging. We have one with these really adorable pom-poms. This shawl that you're looking at now has not been blocked. And we also have the other version which has the edging from the Jessica shawl. I'd like to say a huge thank you to Kylie from Fiber Lily for being yarn support for this video tutorial. I will put Kylie's website and all the other details in the description box so you can grab yourself some of this beautiful yarn. So let's get started on the lesson. For our supplies, we're going to need a pair of scissors, a yarn needle with a large eye. We're also going to need some stitch markers. I'm going to be using 2 paper clips to make it simple, and then just a locking stitch marker. You need 3 altogether. It is handy if one of your stitch markers is different to the other 2, but it's not compulsory. Don't freak out if you don't have any different ones, but you will need 3 altogether. You could also use scrap pieces of yarn, that will work as well. We are also going to be using a crochet hook that is 2 sizes bigger than what's recommended for our yarn. This yarn recommends a 4mm or a G size crochet hook. So I'm using a 5mm crochet hook, which is equivalent to a H in the American numbers. If you're using the pom-pom edging, you will need a smaller crochet hook. I'm going to be using a 3.5mm crochet hook. The yarn that we're using today is from Fiber Lily. This is an Australian yarn, hand dyed by Kylie, and her website is fiberlily.com.au. The one I'm using is called Dawn. This is a 8-ply or a double knit yarn. It is on the Lush base, and this base is very pretty, and it has lovely stitch definition. It's approximately 100 grams, but I did actually weigh my yarn just to make sure that I've got it correct for the pattern. And these are each 107. That's very generous yarn size when it says, sorry, yarn weight when it says it's going to be 100 grams. But I have made this project to fit 200 grams because we're going to use 2. So if you have more than 100 grams on each one, then bonus for you, you get some little yarn left over. This is 200 meters or 218 yards. You're going to need to double that for your project. You can make this shawl any size that you like. It is very easy. The edging fits to any amount of rows on our shawl, so you could do a lot more than what I do, or you could do less if you wanted a smaller version. This is 100% extra fine superwash from Merino, and it's a gentle machine wash, dry flat in the shade. It's a beautiful yarn. Look at the colours in this yarn. It's coming up a little bit pinker on my viewfinder that I have on my camera. This is a lovely orange, like a sunset really. Or it's called dawn. So the colours you would see at dawn, you've got these beautiful, I can't even describe the colour. It's almost a pink, but it's not quite. Yeah, it's so pretty. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at describing colours, but it's absolutely gorgeous. When I looked at it in the yarn ball, it looks completely different to when it's all made up. And this gives you a better idea on how it's going to make up, rather than when it's in the skein. So I'm going to put that footage over the top so you can see what it looked like before I wound it all up. But yes, these colours are absolutely gorgeous. Starting with a slip knot, and you can do this any way that you like. Sometimes when you have hand-dyed yarn, there'll be a little bit at the end that's undyed. So if you didn't want that in your project, then just make that part of your yarn tail. You don't need to leave a long yarn tail for this project. There's no sewing in or connecting. Some of my patterns I tell you to leave a longer yarn tail, but you don't need to do that in this one. We're going to start with 62 chains. So continue on, and I'll just get you to pause the video and we'll come back when we have 62 chains. After we have our 62 chains, what we need to do is do 3 double crochets into the 5th chain from the crochet hook. And the ones that we are skipping count as our very first double crochet plus a chain 1. So in the 5th chain, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to work a double crochet. Let me just move this out of the way. So into that 5th chain from the crochet hook, work 3 double crochets. Back in the same one, and then back in the same one again. And what that is the beginning increase of the row. We are now going to chain 1, skip 2 stitches, and work 3 double crochets and a chain 1 into the next chain. So skip 2 stitches, so 2 chains. In the next one we're going to work 3 double crochet, and a chain 1. And we're going to repeat this across, and we're going to end with 3 double crochets, chain 1 and 1 double crochet, but I will show you how to do that when we get up to the end of the row. So we're going to skip 2 chains, so 1, 2, into the next one we are going to work 3 double crochet and chain 1. Oops, what have I done there? Don't even know. Start again, skip 2, in the next chain work 3 double crochet. It's a little bit fiddly when you do the very first row because you've got nothing to hang on to like normal. So if you think that it's just you, it's not. I had 16 years experience and I'm still fumbling with that very first row. So skip 2, in the next chain we're going to work 3 double crochet and a chain 1. And we're going to repeat this all the way across. I'm coming up to the end and we want to work 3 double crochet, chain 1 and 1 double crochet into the very last chain. So skip 2, and so you should be skipping 2 and then working into that very last chain. If I can get my fingers to work properly, she'll be right. So we want 3 double crochet, and then a chain 1 and 1 double crochet just in that same last chain there, and that is the increase that we do on the end of our row. So we have an increase at the end of our row, and we also have an increase at the beginning of the row. It looks slightly different on the very first row, but it's basically, it'd be a chain 4 and 3 double crochets, or you could do an alternative double crochet, chain 1 and then 3 double crochet. So row 2, so you can turn your work and chain, or chain and turn your work. I seem to just chain and then turn. We're going to chain 4, or you can do an alternative double crochet and then chain 1. What we are going to do is work 3 double crochet and a chain 1 into the first chain space, and that is right next to the chain 4, which is down here, and it's right next to that. So that's that chain 1 space that the pattern is talking about. So we want to work 3 double crochet and we're going into that space there. Work 3 double crochet and chain 1. So that's our first increase of the row. And then we are going to work 3 double crochet, chain 1 into the next 9 chain 1 spaces. So our chain 1 space is these spaces here because our chain 1 is just in there. So we're going to work across until we have done 9 spaces. I just started the yarn cake, so it's not feeding out properly yet. So that's 1. 2, 3. So work along until we have worked into 9 chain 1 spaces. We do not include this very first one, so far we've got 3. So pause the video and I'll meet you when we have 9 complete. So you can see there that I have 9 lots of 3 double crochet chain 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep, just double checking. So I've done my chain 1 on there. And the next chain 1 space, we are going to work our increase. And in the pattern and in this video tutorial, it is referred to as the middle increase, which means it's in the middle of our row. So our middle increase is worked like this: 3 double crochet, that's all in that same chain 1 space, chain 1, and 3 double crochet back in that same chain 1 space. And then chain 1, and you can see there we have an increase because we have 2 lots of 3 stitches into that 1 space. So this is our middle increase. So we want to grab one of our stitch markers and we're going to grab the one that's different to the other 2. So for me it's this yellow stitch marker, and we're placing this in the chain 1 space that we just did in that increase. So in the pattern this is referred to as the middle increase. This may sound confusing, but it's really not. Once we get it along into the pattern, it'll say middle increase. It's really not that hard. Trust me, I teach crochet. Okay, so in the next 9 chain 1 spaces, we're going to work 3 double crochet, chain 1. So we just did 9, and then we did one of our increases, and then we're doing another 9. So that means this increase is in the middle, which is what we want. Otherwise our shawl will be lopsided. So into the next 9 chain 1 spaces like we just previously did. There is a bug flying around, can you see it? It's a really tiny bug. It's gone. No, it's still here. We're going to work 3 double crochet, chain 1 all the way across, and when we get to our last space we will be working our edge increase, which are slightly different to our middle one because we don't do as many stitches. So pause the video and I'll see you when we are ready to do the end increase. So when we get to this stage, we are up to our last space. You should have worked 9 chain 1 spaces, and if you did, that means that you did your row 1 correct, which was the important row, because if we got that wrong, like I did when I was making the pattern, it doesn't work and it all goes lopsided. So anyway, into our last space, which is the chain 4 space from the beginning of the row, what we are going to do is work 3 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet in that same space. And again, this is the end increase. So we have increases at the beginning, the end, and the middle at the moment, but we are going to introduce some more increases. But we need these to create the shape that we want. So we want to chain 4 and turn our work. So for our beginning, we've done our chain 4, and we are now going to put 3 double crochet in that very first space there. And make sure you do 3, because sometimes you count that and just do 3 and you think, oh, that's done, but it's not. It's actually looks like 4 stitches because you've got your chain at the beginning and then you've got your 3 double crochet stitches. So we're going to chain 1. And this row is the easy row, because what we do is we work a 3 double crochet, chain 1 into each space across. So when we get to that middle increase, remember how we just put that stitch marker in? We don't increase again into that stitch. And so do 3 double crochet, chain 1 to each chain 1 space across, and I will show you what we do when we get to that stitch marker, just in case you're not sure. So pause the video and I will meet you when we get to that middle increase, which is, at the moment, it's marked by a stitch marker. So we're coming across and you can see our stitch marker, which is marking our middle increase. So in this chain 1 space, you want to leave that marker there because it will remind us, trust me, it'll remind us to do our next lot of increases that we need to do. So we're just going to work 3 double crochet and a chain 1 in that space that's marked there. You can totally work this project without the stitch markers. If you're like me, you're not going to get your increases in the right spot because you'll just go straight on past where we need to go. So this is why we're using stitch markers for this project. So in the next lot of chain 1 spaces and all the way to the end, we're just going to go back to working, or continue working I should say, our 3 double crochets and our chain 1. So we're just going to work all the way across, and I'll meet you when we are ready to do our end stitches. So pause the video and I'll see you there. We're up to the end of our row, so now we want to do our end increase. So that is a 3 double crochet. We're working in that end chain space. So 3 double crochet like that, a chain 1, and then 1 double crochet into that same space. We're going to turn our work and chain 4. And work 3 double crochet into this chain 1 space here. And then we are going to chain 1. So row 4 is when we're going to put in the other set of increases. So what we're going to do is we've worked our beginning increase, and then we are going to do our increase, so our other increase, which was, remember how we did 3 stitches, chain 1, 3 stitches? We are going to work that increase into the next chain 1 space. So go into the next chain 1 space and work 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet back in that same chain 1 space. And this is where we're going to need one of our stitch markers. So chain 1, and I've got mine here. So we're going to find the chain 1 space there and mark that one. So this is our outer increase. This is our beginning increase, and this is our outer increase. It's totally going to make sense as we get into the pattern. And most of my pattern testers said the same thing. At the beginning it was kind of like, what? But trust me, it does make sense as we go along. And that's exactly what they said. So it wasn't just me thinking that, it actually does make sense, and it keeps it so it's easy to remember where you do your increasing. We are now going to work 3 double crochet in the next 20 chain 1 spaces. So it's pretty much all the way across until we get over here. But make sure you have 20, don't just go, oh yeah, that'll do. You got to make sure you count just to make sure. So 3 double crochet, chain 1 in every chain 1 space across until you have 20 lots. This yarn is looking so pretty. It is reminding me of food for some reason. It's reminding me of raspberries and something. Is anybody else reminding of them? These look like raspberries. Alrighty, so work your way across, pause the video, and I'll see when we are ready to do our next outer increase, which is one like this with our stitch marker. So I have completed 20 lots of 3 double crochet chain 1 into the chain 1 spaces. Make sure you check yours to make sure you have the same. It's basically the second last chain space. You can see a chain space here and then one there. Into this one we're going to work our outer increase, and it is a group of 3 double crochet, chain 1 and 3 double crochet and a chain 1. Grab your other stitch marker that you had, and this needs to be, it doesn't have to be, but it's helpful if this is the same as the other one on this row. If that falls out for me, it's no big problem because I've made this pattern 4 times. Let's just hope that stays in. Into our last space, we are going to do our end increase, and that is a group of 3 double crochet, chain 1 and 1 double crochet in that same end space. We're going to chain 4 and turn our work around. The next part is row 5, and this is the middle increase row. So we want to, first of all, we want to do our increase at the beginning. I've done my chain 4, and then we're going to work 3 double crochet, chain 1 in the very first chain space here. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to pull that loop out for a second. We're going to look at our work. We can see our stitch marker. Let's bring it to the front so you can see it properly. We can see our stitch marker here, and you can see the increase that we did because it's got 3 stitches. There's a chain 1 space that's hidden there, but then we've got 3 more stitches. Can you see that? How we've got 2, where normally we would just have 1 group into the chain 1 space. So here we've got 2. When the chain 1 space that's up here lines up with your stitch marker, or if you're not using stitch markers and living on the edge, when this chain 1 space meets up with this increase here, that's when you know that this here needs to have an increase worked into it. So what I did when I made the Jessica shawl, I actually looked at it, instead of crocheting along and watching out for this, I found that didn't work for me because I don't pay attention. Yep, I'm one of those kids that doesn't pay attention in class. And that's true when I was little. I'm actually going to move this stitch marker right there. And if I don't see that, I seriously need my eyes tested. You've got your I'm going to tell you one more time. You've got your increase here. You can see there's 2 groups with 3 double crochet in there. And then this chain 1 space up here lines up with that increase chain 1 space. So you know your next increase needs to go in there. If you come back here and look at this increase, where you've got an increase here and there, and it's marked with the stitch marker, this chain 1 space, it's not lining up, so it's not 3 rows below. You can see here that you've got 1, 2, 3. 3 rows below is your increase. So when you come over to this bit here, you can see this increase is not 3 rows below, is it? It's literally the row below. So you know you don't need to work any increases into that. I'm trying to explain this slowly so it doesn't sound so confusing. So we're going to work 3 double crochet. I think it's easier when you do it instead of listening to someone talk about it. So normal one there, we've come up to an increase, so we know we don't need to put an increase on top of that because it's not 3 rows below, is it? It's like right in our faces. So when we come up to one of those, we just get that stitch marker out of the way for a start and just work 3 double crochet and chain 1. I keep thinking of raspberry ripple ice cream every time I see this colour. Anyway, into the next space we work 3 double crochet and a chain 1, and we keep doing that until we come across all the way over here and we have our stitch marker, or if, like I said, you're living on the edge and your stitch marker's way down here still, when this chain 1 space is 3 rows below. 1, 2, 3. So this is where our next increase is. So I'll just push that out so you can see. We're just going to crochet across until we get to there. So pause the video and I'll meet you there. So we're up to our stitch marker, and again I'm going to remind you this chain 1 space is lining up with the increase that is 3 rows below. 1, 2, 3, our increase is there. That's the chain 1 space and it lines up with this one. So we know that we need to do an increase into that space. So I'm going to remove this stitch marker just so it's out the way for you to see. And we're going to take it out anyway because we need to put it into this next lot of increasing. So chain 1, and then back in there we're going to work 3 double crochet. And a chain 1. And my yarn's getting stuck. So now if you have a look, you can see that this increase lines up with that increase there. So let's find our stitch marker, place that back in there. When I very first designed the Jessica shawl, it's based on this one as well, I didn't have stitch markers and I was ripping out rows left, right and centre because I was not paying attention. It's a very easy project if you're watching TV, as long as you're paying attention where your stitch markers go. So stitch markers are very handy. So now what we need to do is work our way across. Okay, so another little hint that I can let you know. There's 3 rows to this pattern. There is a row that has no increasing at all. There is a row that has only middle increases, so that's what we've just done. So we only work an increase that looks like this in the middle section, and of course every row gets that increase at the beginning and the end. So yeah, so it's a row with no increasing, there's a row with just middle increasing like that, and then the third row that makes up the pattern is just increases on the outer. So these ones that we worked just at the beginning here, not right at the beginning but just there, these are outer increases. So when we work that row we only work an outer increase here and over here. We don't work a middle increase when we're doing our outer. So there's 3 different rows. Again, one with no increasing at all apart from the ends, one with outer increases that I just showed you, and then one with a middle increase. So it's a 3-row repeat that once you've done a few rows is very easy to remember, and you're probably already starting to think about it already and remember it. So what we do now, because we've worked a middle increase on this row, we know there's no more increasing until we get to that very last space. So we can just do 3 double crochet, chain 1 all the way across. And that's why I'm saying it's easy. Once you've done that increase, you know you can scoot across and only have to remember about that last bit. And again, on your outer increases, once you've done that first one, you know you don't need to think about it again until you're up to the other end of the row in that around about the same area, but up at the other end. So pause the video and work your way across, and I will meet you when we are up to the end of this row. I just love this yarn, it's so pretty. Pause the video and I will see you there. I'm at my end space over here. Did you remember that there is a stitch marker there? You can't see it, it is hiding. But did you remember that when we got there, we didn't need to put an increase above it, did we? Because it's not 3 rows below. So here we are going to put in our 3 double crochet, chain 1 and a 1 double crochet. So 3 to start with, chain 1 and then 1 double crochet in the same space. We are going to chain 4, oh I've lost count, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and we're going to turn our work around. And then this is the row where we don't do any increasing apart from the start and the end. Yoo-hoo! Because the repeat is outer increase, the next row is middle increase, the next row is no increases. That's my favourite row in all of this pattern. because we don't have to concentrate. This is written down in the pattern as well, so if you print that off when you're making your shawl, if you're not sure what you're up to, it has it written down. It has the 3-row repeat written very simply, like it doesn't have 4 instructions. There's like a little, I'm going to put a screenshot across the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. There's a little bit where it says this is what you need to do, so you just have to have a quick glance at that to remember what you're doing. So at the beginning we work our chain and we do 3 double crochet into that space. Chain 1 into each chain 1 space across. We are going to work 3 double crochet and a chain 1. But you already knew that, didn't you? And this row, when we come across, the one we just did was our middle increase. So into that space we just work 3 double crochet and a chain 1 because our increase is not 3 rows below. So work your 3 double crochet chain 1 into every chain 1 space across, and I'll meet you when we are at the end of the row. When we get to the end space we're going to work 3 double crochet, chain 1 and 3, I keep saying 3, 1 double crochet in the same space, and that's our end increase. And like I said, we do this on every row, we do this on the end of every row, and we also do that other increase that we do, so it's chain 4, 3 double crochet, chain 1, and we also do that at the beginning of every row. So let's lay this down a little bit, and it will start to sort of, see how it's curling up? You can block this out straight. My blue and sort of blue yellow, this version is blocked straight, so it can block straight. You can also, which I'm going to do with this one, you can block this one with the curve like that, and it will just stay, it'll stay like that. So we are now going to repeat the last 3 rows. So what was the last row we just did? The last row we just did had no increasing. The next row will have our outer increases, because if we look at our work here, let's just pop this stitch marker through so you can see. We have increase here with our stitch marker marking our chain 1 space, and then we've got 1 and then another 1, and this chain 1 space here is lining up with our increase. Remember what I said when we do our, let's go to the other end, this is where we'll work across. We've got our increase here, and then this chain 1 space lines up with the increase that is down there. So we know that when we come across, we are going to work across and then work an increase into this chain 1 space. So what you can do is now move your stitch markers up. We want to make sure it is in the chain 1 space that lines up with our increase. Go across to the other side. And again, our increase is there, and this is the chain 1 space that lines up. So let's pop that in there. So you can see that our increase is 3 rows below. 1, 2, 3. So when you come across, you're going to do your increase in this one, which is our 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet. You're going to work your way across. You're going to come to the middle one. Is there a chain 1 space that lines up with this increase? Nope. It's 3 double crochets on that one. So you know you need to ignore that. And then on this side, you'll see we do have that chain 1 space that lines up with our increase, and that is where we are going to put our next increase. So we are going to chain 4 and work 3 double crochet in that same space. Chain 1. So you've got your stitch marker over here. We know we need to work across until we get to that stitch marker. Got our stitch marker, so we know we need to work our increase. And you know what that is by now, but I'm going to tell you one more time. It is a 3 double crochet, chain 1 and 3 double crochet, all in the same space. Chain 1. Grab your stitch marker and pop it into the chain 1 that we just did. Well, not that one, this one over here. It's the middle chain 1 space of your increase. And then you work your way across. You can see again there is no space lining up with that stitch marker. So work your way across until you get to the next outer increase, which will be marked with your stitch marker, and you'll have a chain 1 space that lines up with your increase. That's 3 rows below. So pause the video and I'll meet you when we are on the other side. So we've come up to where our stitch marker is, and just to double check, the chain 1 space lines up with the increase down here. You can see that you've got 3 rows, 1, 2, 3. So you know that you need to put in an increase. So I'm just going to remove this stitch marker. So that's 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet, chain 1. Put your stitch marker back in, and we're going to put it into that chain 1 space in the middle there. And you can see now that we've got extra chain 1 spaces before we get to the end. And this is going to happen as we work our way along. The section between the outer increase and the end is going to get larger. And we're coming up to our end, and you probably know what to do. 3 double crochet, chain 1 and 1 double crochet. And it's all in that same last space there. Chain 4 and turn your work around. Row 8, we are going to look across. You can see that our increase there is not 3 rows below. And then we're going to go across here, and we've got our, this is our center increase, or the middle increase. And you can see here it's 3 rows below, because 1, 2 and 3. So we're going to get this stitch marker and we're going to move it up. And you want to move it up to the chain 1 space, which is here, and it lines up with our increase. There's no chain 1 space on this one, it's there. So we know when we come across that we need to do an increase when we get to that one. So you will know what you're doing now. So you're going to crochet across, you're going to just do a normal 3 double crochet, chain 1 in that one. You're going to come across, you're into your center increase. This chain 1 space, you're going to work another increase like we did down there, and then work your way across. You're going to come to the outer increase, but you know you don't need to work in there with an increase because it's not 3 rows below, is it? And then work all the way across. So after we have completed the next row, that is row 8. So the row 8 is when we do our center increase. We repeat the last 3 rows, and that's row 6, 7 and 8. And if you look at your written pattern, you can see that it says the shawl edging will work with any amount of rows on the main section of your shawl. Repeat row 6, 7 and 8 until you have the shawl almost the length that you want, because our edging is going to add more length to our shawl. It's going to add approximately 3 inches if you're using a DK weight yarn or a number 3 weight yarn, which is what I'm using. If you're using a thicker weight yarn, it will probably add around 2.5 to 3, maybe 3.5, maybe 4 inches to your shawl. I am going to finish on row 16, which is going to be a row 7 repeat. And the row 7 repeat is when we do the increases on the outer side, so the outer increase, which is these ones here. I'm going to finish mine on that row, but altogether I'm going to have 16 rows of crochet, and I'm doing this because I only have 2 100-gram skeins. Well, I have a little bit more, but technically I'm going to work this pattern to 2 100-gram skeins, and that is going to give me enough yarn so that when I start my second ball, it's going to give me enough yarn so that I can fit my edging on. I'm going to do 16 rows. So far we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 7 rows of crochet, so I need to do 9 more rows, is that right? Yep, 9 more rows. So yeah, but you can keep going for as long as you want. But a very important tip, the edging on this shawl is a yarn piggy. The edging starts there. This last row uses a lot of yarn. And what I'm going to do is, after I've completed all my rows of just the main section, I'm actually going to weigh this shawl for you, and I'm going to tell you how much it says. And then that will give you an idea on how much yarn you need for the edging. So continue on. So you're going to pause the video, and then you will continue on to complete the amount of rows that you want. And don't forget that your shawl edging is going to add between 2 and 4 inches depending on what thickness of yarn you've used. So pause the video. I have just done 16 rows on my shawl, and I'm just going to weigh what I have left. This is my yarn cake that I have left. I've just gone into my second cake. As you can see, there's not much missing from the middle, and so far I've used 117 grams of yarn to make the body of my shawl. I'm just about to do the 2 more rows of row 6, so I've done 16 rows altogether so far, and so far I've got 96 grams of yarn left. Now this started off as 107 grams, as 107 grams, so I've used a little bit of yarn. And I like to just lift it up and down a few times because sometimes it can give you different measurements, so you just want to make sure you get the right one. So what we want to do now is repeat row 6 twice more, and row 6 is when we didn't do any increases at all. So make sure you have 2 rows of row 6. So if you've just finished on row 6, you'll only need to add 1 more. So if you've just done a row with no increasing, then just do 1 more row. But if you've just finished on a row that has increasing in it, so it's got a middle increase or an outer increase, then add 2 more rows of no increasing at all. Of course, on the very beginning and the very end of our rows, we're going to keep going with those increases because they are very important. We need to keep going with those. But in the outer, you know, the ones with our stitch markers, they're the rows where we do our increasing. So you have to have 2 rows of no increasing at the end of your shawl. And like I said, if you've just done a row 6 repeat, you'll only need to do 1 more. So I'll weigh my shawl again. Oh, it's switched off. But I'll weigh my shawl again after I've finished my 2 rows of the row 6 repeat. If you would like to make the shawl with the Jessica shawl edging, you're going to need approximately 75 grams of yarn. And I'm going to put a link in below so that you can go and watch the Jessica shawl edging. But for this version, in this video tutorial, we are going to do the version with the pom-pom edging. You won't need as much yarn, so you can make your shawl bigger than the version with the Jessica shawl edging. If you're using the pom-pom edging, you will need a smaller crochet hook. I'm going to be using a 3.5mm crochet hook, but you could also use a 4mm if that's all you have on hand. I have quite loose tension, so it would be like me using a 4mm anyway to get the correct tension, but I just drop down normally. But it's just going to be a smaller crochet hook because the pom-poms look better with tighter tension. I did work them up with the 5mm, but they came out really loose and they looked a bit funny. To start off our pom-poms, they need to be divided by chains. Now you can do as many chains as you like. I worked it with 3 dividing them, but I found that too tight across my stitches, and then I found that 5 was too many, so I'm going to go with 4. But again, you can change it up to however many you like. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you would choose how many you want to do. After you've done like 1 or 2, you can tell what it looks like. So after you've done the chain that you want to separate them, then you need to chain 3. This loop here, don't work it too tight because we are going to work back into it. So chain 3, yarn over, go into that chain there, which is the third chain from the crochet hook. So 1, 2, 3. So we've yarned over, go into that chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. You've got 2 loops on your crochet hook. Yarn over, go back into that same chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. You've got 3 loops on your crochet hook. Yarn over, go into the same chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. You have 4 loops on your crochet hook, and we want to keep going until we have 5. So 1 more. So yarn over, go into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull through 2 loops. We now have 5 loops on our crochet hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 5. We are now going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And see the chain that's here? It's just there. That's where we're going to work into with our crochet hook. So yarn over, go into that chain there, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Got 3 loops on our crochet hook. Yarn over, go into that same chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. You have 4 loops. Yarn over, go into that chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull through 2. You now have 5 loops on your crochet hook. My yarn's getting stuck. Sort that out. And now we want to yarn over and pull through all loops. If you're having trouble getting through all those 4 loops, watch what I do with my crochet hook. I yarn over and I turn the tip of my crochet hook up here so it's facing downways. So it's facing that way when I pull it through. So grab that yarn, turn and pull through. If that's facing down, it doesn't snag on anything. Where if it's facing up or sideways, it's going to get stuck on your crochet loops. We want to make a chain to secure that, which is all those stitches there. And now we're going to fold this in half. We're going to fold it away from ourselves so that our stitches are on the right side when you look at the pom-pom. If you fold it towards yourself like that, you're looking at the back of the stitches. And for me, I can't handle that. So we want to fold it away from ourselves. So fold to the back. Let me do this in one motion. Fold to the back, and I'm just picking up the loop on my fingers there. And again, this loop or this chain stitch that we have here. Hang on, let me come from the back. This loop here, that's where a crochet hook's going. So go in there. This is really hard to show you. See that? Go in there, and then pull through and make a slip stitch. Just give it a gentle tug to tighten that off. And now we are going to make the chains that we chose down here. So I chose 4, so we're going to do 4 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to go to the next space. You could go into here, but I am going to choose to go over there. And we're going to work a slip stitch. You could work a single crochet if you like, but I'm going to work a slip stitch. We're going to work the amount of chains we chose, so I've chosen 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. I could say chain 7 there, but I wanted you to choose how many you wanted to do there, and then we have to add 3 for our little pom-pom thingy. So third chain from the hook, 1, 2, 3, the one that's closest to my thumbnail there. Going to yarn over, go into that chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Try not to make these stitches here too tight, because I found they do tighten up. So go in there, pull up, yarn over, pull through 2. You've got 3 loops on your crochet hook. Yarn over, go into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. We have 4 loops on our crochet hook. One more time, yarn over, go into the chain, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. You've got 5 loops on your crochet hook. So yarn over, pull through all those stitches. We now want to chain 3 again. So don't do this first one too tight, because we need to work back into there. 1, 2, 3. Can someone tell my yarn off, because it's getting stuck again? I don't know why, it's just sitting next to me. Yarn over, go into the chain that is closest here, so that orange one that we just used to close up those stitches. Yarn over, which I've done there, go into that chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go in, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. This will be the last time I tell you to do everything, because I'm sure you've got it by now. Yarn over, go into the loop, yarn over, pull through 2, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, got 4 loops, yarn over, go into there, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and we should have 5 loops on our crochet hook. Yarn over, turn your hook so this bit's pointing down. So see how I'm pulling up? Ah, ah. See how I'm pulling up, and it's making those loops really big. If you just do it relaxed, it may not go through. It may get stuck. But if you pull those loops, can I do it without dropping any? If you yarn over, hold this bit, pull up. Hang on, my tension's gone. Hold this bit, pull up, yarn over, and pull through. Makes it so much easier. We're going to do a chain to secure that in there, just to keep all those stitches in place. We're going to fold it away from us, so fold it like that. It's a bit hard to show you on camera. You're folding it that way. So, and what I like to do is just put my fingers underneath, and fold it up. And the chain that is holding these stitches here at the back all together, that is where we're putting our crochet hook. This one's kind of hiding, it's just there. Trying to get it so my shadow is not going there. Just in there. And make a slip stitch. Just give it a tug so it's snug, and then you're going to do the chains that you've chosen, and I've chosen 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Go back down here. Next available space, you've already done that one, you can see. So this one, and work a slip stitch. And you can see sometimes they look a bit, how are you going? So you can just get hold of it, give it a little squish, squishy, and it becomes more of a pom-pom. It just needs a little bit of help at first. You've got this little pom-pom, it's so cute. And we're going to work these all the way across. If you wanted a lot more pom-poms, you could, instead of, let me just pull this stitch out. So instead of going in each space that we have, which is what I'm going to do, you could skip this one and go into that middle stitch of your three stitches that you have on the row below, and that will give you a lot more pom-poms. That would pretty much give you double as many, I think, but I like the way those two are spaced out, so that's what I'm going to do. Depends how pom-pom crazy you want to get. And I am just going to go into the spaces across, but like I said, you could go into those other ones if you like. So it was chain 4 and then start your pom-pom again. See how that just gives it a little bit more room here. Before, these were very squashed down like that, and they pretty much laid just on top of that row there, instead of having that little gap to create more of a visual effect. So they were just sort of like, kind of like that. But they just gives it just 2 extra chains, because you've got 1 extra. I had 3 before on each side, and now I've got 4. Just those 1 extra on each side just gives it a little bit more room. So very, very cute. I cannot wait till this edging's finished. So repeat all the way across, and I'll meet you when we are up on the other side. Once we get to the end, I've done my chain 4. So I've done my bubble, chain 4. And then in this last space here, we're just going to make a slip stitch. And then I will just finish off like so. You could do the bubbles all the way around the shawl, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to have it along my bottom edge. Oops. And then we're just going to pull through. What you could also do is crochet, single crochet along this edge. This is the straight edge of the shawl rather than the curved section at the bottom. And you could single crochet along there. I would try 2 or 3 single crochets into each space across, and then you could just finish it off when you got to the other end of this straight section, but I am not going to do that. That's not something I want to do. And then we're going to sew in our ends. So to sewing our ends, we don't have too much to sew into, so I'm just going to weave it in and out of there. It's just the edge stitches, so we get down to these double crochets there. And then weave it back through, go back up. You can pretty much go anywhere you like, but this is just what I'm going to do today. If I did it another day, it might be different. This is what I'm choosing. You just want to weave in your ends so they're hiding. Go back through and trim off your ends. You can trim off your ends after you block. That's a very good thing to do, but I'm just going to cut it so it's just a little bit hanging out, so that when it's blocked it will just all disappear, and if it doesn't disappear you can just trim them off and just tidy up your shawl. So I'm not going to show you in this video how to block, but I am going to put a link for you. It is going to pop up on the right hand side of your screen here, and I will also put it in the description box of this video tutorial. If it's not in the description box, that means I've forgotten to do it, so please just leave me a quick message saying, hey Claire, you forgot to put the links in. Any video that I make, if I forget to put a link in, which is, you know, I'm human, I do that sort of thing, please just pop a comment in the comments section, say, could you just please add that link, and I will, oops, I'll get onto it for you. So much to do when you upload a video tutorial, you'd be surprised how much work there is. So just, actually I might just pull that out of there. See how there's that loop, big loop there? I'm going to get rid of that. Just retry that one. Of course I've got the world's shortest end. So what you do is you thread your needle through where you want to go first. And then thread your needle and then pull through. Didn't have to trim that one off because it was quite long. So there's another end just there, you can see. I'm going to fix that off camera. I'm going to just sew that back in a little bit more. But yeah, like I said, a blocking video will be up, and I will show you how to block a crochet shawl. You can use pins or you can use blocking wires. I do highly recommend, if you can, get yourself some blocking wires. They're really great to block shawls, blankets, quite a lot of things actually. A great investment, and I've used mine quite a bit. And what I'm going to show you next, instead of just signing off just quickly, I'm going to show you this shawl, obviously, because it has not been blocked, because I've just finished it off. I'm going to show you this shawl and show you the crochet, because some people say, why do you block? And I'm going to show you this one. I'm going to show you my version that I've already finished and blocked, which was my test sort of design pattern when I made up the pattern. And then I'm going to show you the cotton version. I've got a blocked one and I've also got an unblocked one to show you the difference, and it really does make a difference. So what we have here is my blue version, is my blocked shawl, and then this one here is the one that we've just finished, and this has not been blocked. And you can see how open the stitches are on this one. I'm going to move the camera and put you directly overhead. So these stitches are lovely and open. You can see there's lots of open stitches. You can see the background that I've got down here. You can see these stitches are really open. But then if we move our other shawl up, these stitches are not as open. So when it's blocked, it really opens up the stitches like that. And then when it's not blocked, it still looks great, but I think when it's blocked, it opens up the stitches. When you wash it, or you soak it in a wool wash if you've got a woolen product. If not, you can soak it in conditioner, hair conditioner, and soak it with warm water for about half an hour, or overnight if you forget, like I always do. Doesn't matter. But soak it for at least half an hour. It can be really cheap hair conditioner too. It doesn't have to be expensive stuff. And then when you pin it, or you use your blocking wires, it stretches out the stitches and it makes them open up like that, and it makes them look really, really pretty. And I'll just move this one aside and bring back the blue one. This blue one has a gorgeous edging on it, and this edging looks fantastic when it's blocked. This has been blocked. See how it's lovely and open? You can see all the stitches. It gives you great stitch definition when it's been blocked. It looks fantastic. I'll see if I can put in a photo of a shawl, the Jessica shawl, before I blocked it on the edging. You'd be shocked what this edging looks like before it's blocked. But definitely looks much better like that. I've also got some cotton versions that I've made, and you can see that the stitches have opened up here and they look fantastic. The edging looks great. And I'm going to show you the version that's not been blocked, and you can see the difference. Can you see the difference in that edging? You can really see the difference in the edging of this one. It's all ruffled and there's no points or anything at all. This one has not been blocked, where this one has, and the points here really stand out, and the stitches on the edging really stand out here, whereas if you look at this one, it doesn't stand out as much. So I'm just going to flip these over so I can show you the crochet stitches just in the main section. This one has been blocked. You can see great stitch definition, and you can really tell that they're double crochets. Where this one, I'll just put my hand underneath that, it's kind of got this frilly lacy effect and the stitches are all bunched up. This one looks much better because it's been blocked. You can see if you just stretch it out like that, it really opens up the stitches. If I pull this version up, it'll go, because it's normally just like that, and then obviously when you block it, it really opens up those stitches. So I really would advise you to block any projects that you've got. You don't have to block everything, but there are some benefits to blocking, especially if it's a shawl or a scarf where you want to really open up those stitches to make that stitch stand out. You've worked really hard, and otherwise you've got this frilly edging that really shouldn't look like that, and it should look like that. So you can really tell the difference. So I hope that gives you some ideas on what blocking can do to your work. Thanks for watching this tutorial. Please share your creations on our Facebook page or tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see what you've been up to. Please subscribe. There's always lots of crochet tutorials coming out. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy crochet. And I just need to find a yarn needle. Guarantee you cannot find one when you're looking for one. And yes, I did have it all organised when I very first started this video tutorial, but that was about 4 days ago. But the magic of YouTube, it's not 4 days. I'm going to need 3 stitch markers. I will be using just some... Really?